Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today, we're here to kind of celebrate Spirits' overperformance in this weekend's Pioneer events. There were two Pioneer challenges and a Pioneer tournament held by Degenerate Gaming, and I'll send a link to their website right in the video description. But all three of those big tournaments were won by Spirits Pirates, so that's really exciting stuff. What we'll do today is kind of go over Spirits' place in the meta. We'll find out exactly why it seems to have fallen from grace, and we'll celebrate the fact that that's not even really true, seeing as we won all three big tournaments this weekend. And then I've got some Explorer gameplay for y'all, since I have finally figured everything out as far as what was going on with my computer and stuff. So, yeah, great time to be alive. Let's get right into it. First, we're going to talk about why Spirits isn't the best deck in Pioneer. And there's going to be three main reasons that we have to deal with. The first is going to be the popularity of Rakdos Midrange. This is a deck that contains lots of very cheap removal and has access to more removal in the sideboard, making it relatively hard for us to keep our creatures around. If we're trying to hold on to a counter spell or something to protect our creatures, they also play discard spells to make sure those aren't a factor. Overall, kind of a pain in the ass. And Rakdos Midrange takes up about 15% of today's Pioneer metagame. The next are going to be the various aggro decks of the format. These are going to have things like Mono Red, Boros Heroic, and Mono White aggro. All of these decks play very low to the ground plans that don't particularly care so much about our counterspells, because by the time we're casting a 2-mana counterspell, they've already deployed their 1-mana threat. The last thing is going to be Mayhem Devil. And Mayhem Devil is only played in one archetype, the Sacrifice archetypes, but they take up about 8% of the Pioneer's Winners metagame. And in the Mayhem Devil decks, almost none of the other cards actually in those decks matters. But a single resolved Mayhem Devil can beat Spirits all by itself. Not a great time to be alive. This does not mean that Spirits is not without its strengths, and in Pioneer, we have lots of them. We have a very feasible plan against creatures in the form of Shacklegeist and even Nebelgast Herald to make it so that we control combat at pretty much all times by deciding who gets to attack and who doesn't get to block. We also have a pretty reasonable plan against spells. We have access to cards like Geistlight Snare and Slip Out the Back in the example of Mono Blue Spirits. We also have creatures like Mausoleum Wanderer, and if you're playing Azorius or Bant, you also have access to Spell Queller. The combination of having some game against creatures and some game against spells makes us very good overall, since we do still have game against everything. And now that we know the strengths and the weaknesses of Spirits in Pioneer, we can start to develop an actual deck list. Most of this is honestly pretty stock. The only real big change that I've made is incorporating the addition of Nebelgast Herald, which is a card that we've played in the past. Brazen Borrower is totally an option, and I don't necessarily hate it, but I really wanted Nebelgast Herald for the extra tapping effect rather than the one-time solution provided by Petty Theft, especially against decks like Mono Green, which play Reach creatures now, and Heroic, which is a deck where sometimes you'll just need to deal with the same creature more than once. Other than that, everything's pretty simple. We've got a giant pile of 18 snow-covered islands and 4 copies of Faceless Haven. With blue-white control being so good right now in Pioneer, I really wanted the maximum number of creature lands available to ourselves. Honestly, if Fairy Conclave were in this format, I would probably consider playing a one-of that on top of all of these. You can also play 1 copy of Otawara Soaring City if you want to. I'm choosing not to right now, but that does not mean that I won't play it in the future. I simply am okay with dealing with 22 lands and sometimes taking an additional mulligan rather than playing the 23rd land and playing a little more safely. I did do a short on the math earlier between playing a 22nd and a 23rd land, so feel free to check that out as well. Our creature base is going to be really simple here. We've got 4 copies of basically everything. Senate Spirit, Mausoleum Wanderer, and Spectral Sailor are all good 1-drops that can carry a Curious Obsession pretty well. We also have 4 copies each of Supreme Phantom, Shacklegeist, and Rattle Chains. These all perform their jobs admirably, and Shacklegeist is honestly a pretty secret MVP. This card's gas. And as I said, we're playing 2 copies of Nebelcast Herald on top of the 4 Shacklegeists, and this ensures that we have maximum control over combat. Against spells, it's pretty easy. We just have 4 copies of Geistlight Snare and 4 copies of Slip Out the Back. This card is an absolute all-star in this deck. The phasing is very, very important because rather than a card like Dive Down or you see a guard approach, Slip Out the Back actively helps you against Supreme Verdict, and it came up quite a bit in this most recent tournament. I suggest trying this as at least a 2 of in your mono blue decks. We also have, of course, the 4 of Curious Obsessions to help draw cards. We also got a really, really sweet spoiler, so watch until the end of this video. Our sideboard has 3 copies of Witness Protection, and if you feel like it, you can play 4. 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke to go alongside 2 copies of Negate. I'm specifically choosing Negate here rather than a 3rd copy of Disdainful Stroke over a lot of decks not playing Negate, because this stops accidental things from a lot of weird decks right now, and you just have a lot of play. Like, it stops all the March of Otherworldly Lights and Portable Holes and other removal from from blue-white control, whereas Disdainful Stroke has nothing to say about those cards. You also have the ability to stop random weird stuff from happening to you. For example, Jeskai Ascendancy resolving. All of the random cards that you have to read are usually hit by Negate. Same goes for things like Chandra 4 and Sorin, even though the Disdainful Stroke hits those as well. You don't want to side this against Rakdos, though, because it has almost no text outside of those 2 Planeswalkers and exactly Kalidas, which they only play 1 or 2 of most of the time. This, however, hits the same Planeswalkers and all of the removal spells. So, which one would you rather side in against Rakdos, right? If you want to play a 3rd copy of Disdainful Stroke and not Negate, that is a little better against Mono Green Devotion, because you can counter things like Cavalier of Thorns more reliably. However, Mono Green Devotion is not a matchup that you should probably be too scared of when you're playing Mono Blue Spirits. And if you really are, because of the inclusion of things like Skylasher, Aether Gust might be a little better for that purpose anyway if you're actively targeting that deck, since it also has upside against mono red decks. We're playing a 1-of copy of Narset's Reversal, and I don't think I like this card enough to play 2 of them, but it has a lot of sweet spots specifically in Pioneer. In this format, you get to steal a lot of really relevant spells. Stealing from Lotus Field combo, for example, a Pour Over the Pages, or a sideboarded Thought Distortion is usually a handshake. Against blue-white control, you can steal key draw cards, like Memory Deluge. And against the really broken spells, this card straight up wins you the game most of the time. Imagine stealing a Treasure Cruise. Your opponent delved out all of their graveyard to cast a Treasure Cruise. You stole it, drew 3 cards, and they don't have a graveyard to recast the same Treasure Cruise. That's a handshake. We also have 4 copies of Mystical Dispute. And this card is just really solid. This card used to see main deck play. It was that good in Pioneer. Basically, the entire format is either aggro or plays a lot of blue. And we are both aggro and playing a lot of blue. Go figure. And the last spots are going to Aethersphere Harvester, and this card has a couple of jobs as well. Being a vehicle, it's immune to Supreme Verdict, so as long as you're not dumb enough to tap out for this card, to crew this card on your opponent's turn for some reason, it'll never die. Awesome. You also get the lifelink, which is super important against things like red, and occasionally when you're on to play, a lot of other random aggressive matchups, like 3/5 lifelinker is pretty good against mono white. The same story can go for Rakdos if you see them picking things like Anger of the Gods out of their sideboards. I think this card secretly has a lot of jobs right now. Not to say that another better vehicle or creature can't come out in the future. And then for your own sideboards, if you want to, I guess, get away from some of the cuter cards and the Negates and Narset's Reversal and play things that are a little more stock, you can play a 4th copy of Witness Protection, a 3rd copy of Disdainful Stroke, you can play some copies of Aether Gust in your deck, you can play an Icon of Ancestry. There's a lot of options to go with for this archetype. And finally, we get a new card spoiled from Dominaria United that seems almost custom made just for us. And it's going to be called Combat Research. It's just a blue mana. It's an aura. An enchanted creature has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And as long as enchanted creature is legendary, it gets +1/+1 and has ward 1. Since we don't play legendary creatures in Mono Blue Spirits, that last half of the card doesn't actually have text for us. But that's fine. That's not why we play this card. The reason we're playing this card is because on top of the 4 Curious Obsessions that you're already playing, you can play Combat Research as a potential 5th, 6th, 7th, or even 8th copy of that type of effect so that you're more reliably drawing cards. You're keeping up with your opponents who can draw cards, or simply outpacing those opponents who cannot draw cards. And this bodes very well for us because it really just means that our deck that already wants to do a certain thing is going to be allowed and able to do that thing much, much more often. Previously, we were playing Simic Spirits so that you could have the same type of redundancy in Sixth Sense. You also got to play Tamio Safekeeping, but now we have access to things like Slip Out the Back, which is almost as good as Tamio Safekeeping, and Combat Research is technically strictly better than Sixth Sense for us. The cool part about staying one color, though, is that you don't have to splash, and that means you don't have to lose out on Faceless Haven. So you get to have the exact same type of redundancy that Simic has already enjoyed for a couple of years now, but you don't have to play like a fringe archetype for that redundancy. Instead, you get to keep your amazing creature lands and just kind of keep the beats coming while staying one color. I am very, very excited about this. Now that we know about a sweet new card and we know about the ups and downs of spirits, let's get right into some cool Explorer gameplay. I'll see y'all in the first round. Ooh, we get the die roll. That's pretty hype. And this hand is awesome. All things considered, I am a pretty happy human right now. So we're just going to start off with this in case they have like a Fatal Push or something. I'd rather they kill this than a Spectral Sailor, which is much, much, much less likely to be blocked in the early game. So here, I actually think I want to simply attack like normal. Bait out one removal spell. Then I can play Spectral Sailor and flip out the back something and then untap and have a better Curious Obsession. I think that's probably the way here. Yeah. Like this, I can slip now. So I like that a lot, especially against what's likely a black-red deck, and it is. So now I have 2 creatures. If I draw something nice and protective, like a Rattle Chains, yeah. So I'm going to put it on this Ascendant Spirit. So, and now that the Ascendant Spirit is a 3/3, it can't die to Bone Crusher Giant Stomp. So, hell yeah. That's exactly what we want to see out of a draw like that. If we had tried that Curious Obsession on turn 2 when they had the Fatal Push up, the options are either we let this die, or that's fine. So yeah, like either we just like let our friend die, or we slip out the back and protect our Ascendant Spirit, but then the Curious Obsession fizzles. So either way, that's not exactly what we want to be doing with our lives. So here I just get to make a 4/5, untap. And I'm not going to pump it up to fly here. I'm just going to let them chump block with the Kiki-Jiki Midget. So if they want to go ahead and block there, that's fine. And I can play the Mausoleum Wanderer post-combat to kind of hide the fact that oh, hell yeah, they're just going to let me draw instead. It's even better. Give me a card. Nice. So options are I can Brazen Borrower and bounce this, denying them an attack, leaving 2 mana up for Rattle Chain. I can play Mausoleum Wanderer, which threatens a pump here to fly and protection at the same time, but they can get up to 5 mana here. I don't think 5 mana is that different from 4, so I'm going to let them have this and threaten to make my Ascendant Spirit fly. And they only have the 1 card in their graveyard, so they can't like threaten a Croaks or anything like that. What they drop? Thoughtseize. Okay, so there's a Fatal Push, and now I'm going to go ahead and use my Rattle Chains here. So let's give this guy X-Proof, and they pack it up. Let's go! So against Black-Red, I want to play Unlicensed Hearse. I want to play Negates. I don't particularly care about Shacklegeist in this matchup. It's not bad. It's just not A1 excellent, you know? So that's going to be our sideboard against Red-Black. And we'll have to be just a little more careful with our mulligans here because of the fact that we're playing fewer creatures. But just like we saw, I believe in us. We can do it. Okay, we have a 1-lander. We cannot keep these against Rakdos. This is not fantastic, but it's also not that bad. Like Unlicensed Hearse makes sense, makes it so that we're not going to like die to Croaks or anything ever. If they choose it rather than one of these 2 cards, I'm okay with that too. But realistically, they probably just take the Supreme Phantom. They do. Okay, so we'll do that. Pass the turn. And let's see if they can do a little better for themselves this time around. Dockland. Harvester, that's why. Okay, so now I'm just going to do this and unlicense hers. And I'm fairly happy with this development still, even though it's pretty bad as far as things considered, right? Like, I don't have a creature on the board. I do have a slip out the back. They have more cards than I do. And I'm not particularly working too hard on my board presence right now, but almost any live creature draw here turns into a pretty good time because I've got flip out the back and 3 lands guaranteed to be able to protect at least 1 creature. So they're going to have to devote multiple resources to the very first creature I play. The cool part about it is the creature I play in a pinch can also crew this unlicensed hearse before it dies to whatever removal spell they're going to play. So I think I can see some good things coming from this hand, provided we draw a creature or two. Another fatal push is discarded. Wow, opponent. And the cool part about them pitching that blood token too is going to be the fact that now they don't have a blood token to actually kill one of my creatures with. So this Harvester is no longer an actual kill spell. So my graveyard only has 1 card, so I'm just going to do this to the Fatal Push. Roll my Hearse, keep them off of Kroxa, and let's do the untap. Not a creature. Okay. See, this is the part of the game that I don't necessarily like, because this can happen. So one of these ideal draws in like maybe 1 or 2 turns would be like an Ascendant Spirit, right? Okay, so this is going to try to drain my Supreme Phantom, but I am going to be able to get rid of that. So they don't get to do that. This is still not actually good now. Drawing a spell or 2 would be ideal. Nope. Yeah, I'm over it. Let's go to game 3. That was a little rough, but we're going to go ahead and resubmit the exact same 75 here. As long as like that doesn't happen again, you know, drawing 7 lands, I think we'll be okay still. So let's play this. Oh, come on. Not again. Oh no. Oh no. We're doing a thing. Okay, that's much better. So, but now I got to pitch 2 cards. So doing it like this will give it myself at least the highest chance to be able to play Magic. And if their card on turn 1 isn't a Fatal Push, then that sucks too, but I don't think I can afford to, there we go, that's helpful. But draws like that actually are exactly why I didn't necessarily want to get rid of my, ooh, nice. So now let's see if they, no? Okay. Opponent. Aw, goodbye, Mausoleum. Oh my god, are we actually gonna steal this game? Please play a removal spell so I can slip and then have it be lethal. Come on, one time. Give it to me. That does not solve your problem. Oh my god. Yeah. Let's go. All right, we get to be on a play against Deb. Oh, look, hands we get to keep this time around. Well, we'll see if we're playing against Rakdos again, or whether we're playing against, you know, just something else. On the assumption that we are playing against Rakdos, I actually want to just start off with Ascendant Spirit, because if they have a kill spell, I would rather them kill this than one of my flyers. They play a bunch of ground blockers, like River Tears Overlook. We are no longer considering that we're playing against Rakdos. That's the, what is it, Swamp Mountain Forest, so Jundland. Okay, so let's do that. And I have the Rattle Chains, but I actually think I just want to develop Shacklegeist against Unknown Forest, and maybe hide the fact that I have Rattle Chains against a not removal based deck, maybe? I have no idea what Jundland, so I'm gonna find out with y'all. Another River Tears Overlook. Okay, so is this gonna be like a Llanowar Elf or an Elvish Mystic or whatever's in Arena? I am really curious as to what's happening right now. Another forest? What? Okay, we're just double forest, just no covered forest, regular forest. I have absolute Valakut Exploration. Holy shit, opponent. All right, so we are on maximum BS. I love everything my opponent's doing right now. I mean, I don't necessarily know how the whole them not dying thing is gonna work because we've got a pretty sweet board, but in theory, I like all of what they're doing. So like, they have a bunch of these lands, and I assume that the win condition, now that I'm actually seeing what's happening here with the Valakut Exploration, is going to be, what's that 4 mana card called? I think it's called Splendid Reclamation, where for 4 mana, all of the lands in your graveyard come into the battlefield tapped. And then when you have that happen, all of these things automatically trigger. Like, they're not any kind of, that's fine. You can have 2 of those, because I'm just going to kill you. So I'm just going to play Wanderer, play Ascendant Spirit. Then you do that, and then I just Jinku Hadouken and kill you ultra dead. But the Splendid Reclamation brings all of these lands back, and then these are fetch lands, so you get 2 instances of each land, and then Valakut Exploration can kill you from like 106. So honestly, very, very cool as far as decks go. So here, I assume they will side into very limited removal, probably still some, but I think it's going to be light enough that I can still consider not actually keeping Slip Out the Back in. And Negate's going to be able to handle the explorations. It's going to handle the Splendid Reclamation itself, so that the combo is going to be a lot harder to fulfill. And since I have the actual Negates in now too, I'm not so worried about like getting auto locked out of the game by just them having more mana than Geistlight Snare can tax them for. So yeah, so they're gonna get their ramp on. They're gonna eventually get to Reclamation Land, but that'll work out okay-ish for me because of the fact that we already have the Mausoleum Wanderer. So I'm gonna go ahead and lead again with Ascendant Spirit, because in case they're playing other things like, say, I don't know, Bone Crushers or any kind of not Redding Valley, that's not in this format. Fry is the one that actually is in this format. Azusa, okay. I think I'm right about what they're playing, by the way. Okay. I have Rattle Chains now. That's not perfect, but it is still pretty good. And I'm not gonna play the Mausoleum Wanderer this turn, because like they don't have the exploration out anyway. I would rather develop Rattle Chains or even pump this for a Supreme Phantom turn potentially next turn. But I'm currently not really like doing anything if I just play Mausoleum Wanderer, because like it's only a 1/1, so it can't really tax them out of the Splendid Reclamation. So here, if they, I don't know, do something crazy, okay, yeah, I was gonna say if they want to do something super wild, like act with this Ascended Spirit or something, but I'll just play my Rattle Chain and hope that one of their 2 cards is not named a removal spell. Looks like it's not. So now we get Supreme Phantom, and I'm pretty okay with that. So let's go ahead and chill here. Roiling Regrowth, okay. So it's basically Harrow. So to get 2 basic lands, they only got 1? I have a confuse. How the fuck did they only play 1? All right, well, cards. I want to hold this until the very last moment possible. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's see if they block Rattle Chains. Sick. All right, so we actually do get them to block Rattle Chains, and now what are we really doing about a spell? I think the answer is currently nothing anyway, so I might as well just untap and kind of hope for the best here, because that's pretty much what's happening. And they're looking at my Supreme Phantom pretty hard, so what's the deal, opponent? So I can counter that for sure. So let's do this, counter this. Please stop looking at my nice thing. Okay, so I can't attack and pump Ascendant Spirit with this, so I'm actually just going to attack normally and threaten to card draw from Spectral Sailor as well. Oh, alarm. Yeah, go. So pumping this for the 3 mana would not have made lethal anyway. It would have taken them just from 3 to 1, and I don't think that's enough to be relevant. So yeah, cool. Good stuff, us, over the Splendid Reclamation combo deck. Okay, so we're on the draw. Hand is acceptable. Got an Ascendant Spirit, Mausoleum, Slip Out the Back, and these are all fine. That was Agadeem's Awakening, which means I'm probably looking at Greasefang. But let's actually see what happened. Black and black, Fatal Push, Night Sweet Prince, and a Faceless Haven. Okay, so now I'm gonna play Mausoleum Wanderer, hold up my Slip Out the Back, and I'd be really, really glad my draw step involves the Curious. Oh no, Gifted Aetherborn. Okay, so we're playing against some kind of what appears to be mono black nonsense instead of Greasefang. So another land is not exactly what I wanted to get out of this turn. So let's go ahead and get my basic attack in here. And I do think I have far too many what's probably a slower matchup, but a Thoughtseize. Okay, so that means I'm going to this opportunity bounce away, deny the life, and I'll make my Mausoleum. So if they have a Fatal Push for this, then so be it, because I already wasn't going to get to protect it. But if I do it like this now, they use the Fatal Push, they lose 2 life for another Thoughtseize, and I can at least attack, and that's actually a really good draw. So here I can just threaten to like cast a Brazen Borrower and start attacking with this Faceless Haven. If they Thoughtseize me again, I'll just cast this Brazen Borrower instead. Or Lock class. Okay. Yeah, we're going full Gray Merchant none. So here I want to just cast an Ascendant Spirit's also not a bad draw. So let's go ahead and get my attack in here. You want to play my Ascendant Spirit, and I've only got 4 total mana, so I'll play the Faceless Haven. This way, if I want to Brazen Borrower or bounce this thing, I can do that. And if I want to bet, rather than just like playing another, or not necessarily, but effectively no reason, you know? So I am going to just take this though. Like on the off chance that they're trying to play some big ass sorcery speed thing, then I'll be pretty glad for this Brazen Borrower to be able to bounce that. There we go from there, right? So now I can do this again. And I kind of wish I had a Slip Out the Back, but you know, they had the thoughts. They already tried it. Supreme Phantom is DM helpful. I don't mind doing that. It's whatever. It's not like they can Fatal Push my Brazen Borrower, right? So now if they want to cast either Murderous Rider or Gifted Aether, get to play this Brazen Borrower, fly over them for 7. Yeah, and I don't mind threatening life total with a Faceless Haven, I have 2 of them anyway, so that's already. But also, level 2 does what? When this becomes level 2, look at the top 3, put 1 in the graveyard. Okay. So now they're gonna be forced to block, which, oh, never mind. I was gonna say they're forced to block, but with this essentially being a fatal push, that's not necessarily the case. So I think I would actually just rather attack for 7 and draw a card with my new Spectral. So they go up to 4, a maximum of 6 here. If they play a Gray Merchant, then it becomes a lot more. But I can't do anything about it right now, so I'm just going to take this 2. They go to 6, and I'm still flying for more than 6, so I'm not ultra concerned about that. So let's see what they come up. Meat Hook Massacre for 3. Won't lie and say that doesn't suck, but that's only 7 total, right? Like, I lose 3, they gain 1. Oh no, opponent controls gain a life. Never mind, they're going up. That's a lot. So let's see if we have another land. Here's that. Draw a card. That's not terribly helpful. There we go. So now they take 5, they go to 4, and I can still either draw a card or can I love. So let's see if they're just going to try to jam a Gray Merchant. They do, and they die. All right, got a fatal push? You do not. Sick. So now we're playing against mono black control, which is definitely not what I thought time around. Here I just want to complete. I don't they don't actually play like Tenacious Underdog or anything else. So I think the only thing I really want to take out is just 2 of these Ascendant Spirits. Like, the Ascendant Spirit by itself isn't bad, right? But we already saw a Gifted Aetherborn, so I have to put in a lot of mana to be able to attack effectively. That's also, I believe, not really good enough witness protection. So I'll just side in negates and be happy. One land. Goodbye. Much, much, much better. So here I want, I think the real answer is I could ship one of these Curious. No, let's not be super greedy. So here they could Thoughtseize away the other Curious Obsession. Yeah. And then I'm playing like a much more honest plan, right? But I actually think doing it is still better than, oh, they took my Geistlight. Okay, so that means that they have a removal. Cast a removal spell on this. Yeah, that's fine. So I untap, I played a Supreme Phantom, let them fatal push it, and then the Spectral Sailor can start carrying. I think I like that. So here, if it's another fatal push, then, you know, sucks to me. They already had the most efficient thing, and I was never going to do anything about that with this hand. But if this exactly is going to be some kind of relatively meaningless thing like Chimera that I honestly just do not care about, then I'm still pretty okay with this. And my Spectral Sailor can lock out too. So a Geistlight Snare, let's see what they try to do. Hopefully it's something expensive like a Murderous Rider. It's something expensive like a Murderous Rider. Aren't we so good at this? All right, untap. And a negate, how perfect. Now, that's really funny though, because a negate is pretty much exactly what the doctor asks for. However, if it ended up being a Ascendant Spirit, which is what I sided this out for, then my hand is terrible. The thoughts, I'm actually just going to let you do life. Like, there's almost no reason to negate that. It's not like there's other cards in hand to hide from. So hopefully this is not a removal spell and it's just like another creature. If you play like a Gifted Aetherborn or something, I'll play it a land. This way, if I use my Spectral Sailor's ability, I can try to draw out like a Flip Out the Back or something useful. But it looks like I'm just going to get to hit him. So, oh no, I played my land already. Aw. Well, hopefully they try to Thoughtseize. Yeah, that's gain a life for every creature card exiled, so they get 2. That's pretty sweet, right? Both creatures, yeah. So here's this. We go to 14 all. And all things considered, that Castle Lock is gonna... No! Give me a slip out the back. Damn it, so close. All right, fine. You got me. Oh, the Devotion. That's really good. All right. Well, at least they can't attack, so that part's nice. And I will be able to attack, so that's nice. Geistlight Snare is not the worst, because I can cast both counter spells here since I have a spirit now. So that's active. So let's see what ends up happening over. Probably just draw a card, lose 3, go to 8. Yeah. So now they're at 8, which is exactly 2 attacks from this. So if that's your plan, I'm pretty okay with that. A Duress. So they can take 1 counter spell or the other. So I don't mind them. They have to like take this if they want to resolve a creature and then still deal with down the road. They don't have a 5th land drop. They Mausoleum Wanderer is active too. I'm actually gonna play that. So let's play our friend Wanderer. And this way I'm kind of double protected from spells, right? So that's really nice. They can end of turn just at 2, and they'll be able to gain a couple points of life because I think I still have 2 creatures in here. Spectral Sailor, and they have Rider, so that's right. Is this a single graveyard? No, from graveyards. So they get to go up to 10, but even, I'm sorry, they get to go up to 6 rather, and that's still pretty good. It also means they're not drawing a card. What's this? Are we just exiling 2 more cards? Oh, yeah, sure. So ideal draws from them look like, Gray Merchant's very good. So what's that? 5, 6, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, okay. And they do have a relatively free attack. I guess I'll cry about that. So I go to 6, and then I get to untap. They'll hold this negate. Obviously, I would rather have the Geistlight Snare, but they did take that for a reason. And this is actually exactly when I do want to draw Ascendant Spirit. So drawing that when it's really late game is super nice. So they go to 10, and I get to pump plus protect with a negate, and I can block one of these things because this will be a 2/3. So I take 2, go to 6, I can untap, pump, and then do cool things. So that's nice. Like having access 4/4. However, if you attack with both, okay. I was gonna say if you attack with both though, I will be pretty happy to go ahead. Faceless Haven holding up negate, but I'll just untap here. Mausoleum 1, also really good. So now this is going to become 2 power. I still don't really want to activate my Faceless Haven because they can just double block. I don't want to. Yeah, so I actually think I'm just going to make this a 4/4, holding up the same. So I can attack with both, take them down to 6, and that effectively denies them a card draw too, which is really nice. So now you can activate this if you want to, but I don't really care about that. You're gonna go to 1. You are brave. So in order to land anything super meat, I have to play maybe another Meat Hook Massacre, but they know I have the negate. Well, removal spell doesn't think here. Now it does. Sucks at me. So if they have another Ray Merchant here, then that really sucks. I can't do shit about that. I'm taking this. So let's see what happens. Extinction Event. That doesn't do anything. So I get to like pop this, right? You go to 2, pay the 1, go to 3, and then I untap and kill you. So hopefully, oh, okay. I was going to say, so hopefully that card that they had in hand wasn't exactly a fatal push, because yeah, you would have got me. But guess we take those. 3-0 on the day. All around, fantastic stuff, right? So we got to go over spirits, celebrate our win. We got to see a sweet, sweet new card coming out of Dominaria United, and we got to have some cool gameplay on Arena. Once again, going 3-0. So it's a really great time to be a spirits pilot right now. I'm ultra hype. As you can tell, I have a little bit of trouble kind of containing myself for this because just woo, like let's go. But we still got to wait until what, a couple of weeks from now before we actually have access to Dominaria United cards. So for now, we're going to continue playing the decks as it is. But look forward to lots and lots more mono blue content because combat research is going to just be the biggest deal for a pretty long time. With that said, thanks everybody for joining me today, having fun with this experience, and then checking out the cool gameplay. But as always, if you like what you're watching, that's going to be the end of today's video. So make sure to click the like button for me. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Helps a lot. And I'll see y'all on the next one.